Today in the news, a man is accused of making bomb threats during a Zoom lecture, and Chief Renee Hall, Dallas's first black female police chief, is to step down November 10th, and the City of Dallas's hospital capacity report. Today is September 10th, 2020, and this is Dallas Weekly News. Hello, I'm your host, Patrick Washington, and this is Dallas Weekly News. A man has been arrested after being accused of making a bomb threat against the University of Houston during a Zoom lecture. Ibrahim Ahmed Al-Bayadi made an initial court appearance Tuesday in federal court in Houston. Al-Bayadi, age 19, was accused by federal authorities of joining a university lecture on Zoom on September 2nd and interrupting it by saying, "What does any of this have to do with the fact that UH is about to get bombed in a few days?" Al-Bayadi, who identified himself as Abu Kital al-Jihadi al-Mansur on the call, was also accused of uttering an Arabic phrase which means the Islamic State will remain, according to a criminal complaint. Investigators allege his discussion about the Islamic State was a reference to the terrorist organization. After al-Bayadi repeated the phrase, he left the phone call to gasp the students, according to the criminal complaint. He was arrested on Friday. Court records did not list an attorney for him. Al-Bayadi is a U.S. citizen who lives in Richmond, located about 30 miles southwest of Houston, told investigators that the incident was a joke devised by him and a friend, according to the complaint. Authorities also accuse Al-Bayadi of being a recruiter for the Islamic State. Al-Bayadi has been charged with making threats or conveying false information to destroy by means of fire and explosives the making of a threat over the interstate commerce. If convicted, Al-Bayadi faces up to 10 years in prison. Chief Renee Hall, the first black woman to lead the Dallas Police Force, has submitted her resignation effective November 10th. Hall's resignation letter didn't give a reason for the stepping down, and she did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Hall is the latest in a parade of big city chiefs to resign or retire amid the protests and unrest that have swept the country since the death of George Floyd. A black man who was on the ground and handcuffed died in May after a white Minneapolis police officer pressed his knee on Floyd's neck for several minutes. Hall, age 48, wrote in the resignation letter that Dallas police have dealt with an unthinkable series of events since she took office in 2017. She said she's proud of how the 3,000 officer department coped and implemented critical reforms. Hall came to Texas from Detroit the year after a sniper fatally shot 4 Dallas police officers and 1 transit officer during a protest in July 2016. Police ultimately killed the gunman with a robot-delivered bomb. During Hall's tenure, a Dallas officer was convicted of murder for the high-profile 2018 shooting of her neighbor, and even before the coronavirus pandemic, the city was struggling with an increase in violent crime. Dallas city councilors and the mayor have recently been critical of Hall's leadership during the protests, which included police arresting hundreds of people who'd marched onto a city bridge, only to drop charges against nearly all of them. Last month, the police department issued a report that found it struggled with operational plans, communication, and maintaining a centralized command structure during days of protests. Since Floyd's death, police chiefs have stepped down for various reasons in Seattle, Atlanta, Portland, Oregon, and Richmond, Virginia. In Rochester, New York, on Tuesday, top police leaders announced their retirements amid nightly protests over the handling of a suffocation death of Daniel Prude in police custody. Hall's predecessor in Dallas, David Brown Sr., became the superintendent of the Chicago Police Department this spring, and her resignation letter hints that she will continue police work elsewhere. And now the City of Dallas's hospital capacity report. This has been Dallas Weekly News. I'm your host, Patrick Washington. You can find these and more stories on dallasweekly.com. And you can follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And as always, if you can, please stay home, stay safe, and we will see you again tomorrow.